We've got some big news today in the world of worship tech ministry. Renewed Vision, the makers of ProPresenter, and Resi, they're the ones who have created this amazing, resilient, multi-streaming cloud platform along with hardware encoders. These two companies have come together to create the Resi ProPresenter Stream plugin. In this video, I want to unpack why this is a big deal, why this is going to be a great solution for a lot of churches, probably not every church, but many churches are going to be able to benefit from this. And hopefully we can just kind of clarify some confusion that I've been seeing floating around all of the Facebook groups and community discussion. So to clarify a few things, you've got ProPresenter. It's an app created by Renewed Vision, and it really takes care of all of your video and lyric display needs for your worship ministry. It's my favorite go-to presentation software. And then Resi is a different company that creates a streaming service. It has a cloud aspect to it, which is mainly what you'll be using with this new ProPresenter plugin, but they also offer some hardware encoders. And the cool thing about Resi is that it's got RSP, Resilient Streaming Protocols, created with a simple premise. By taking advantage of a short delay, we can ensure that every frame of video content makes it to the cloud perfectly before your viewer sees it, eliminating those special effects like buffering, frame drops, or glitches. And we don't want special effects like that, right? And they illustrate all of this perfectly on their website. And I can say I've been a Resi user for 3 months now. We use it every single Sunday at my church. We use the Ray encoder. And using the dedicated Ray encoder, it's kind of pricey. The encoder itself is over $1,000, but it's been extremely reliable. We've never had our stream fail on us for 3 months. And I know other churches who have been using Resi, formerly known as Living as One, for years, and they would say the same thing. So the big deal about this new ProPresenter plugin is that you're combining the streaming power of Resi, the reliability of Resi, with ProPresenter. ProPresenter is a software most of us are using in our worship ministries already. And a few months ago, ProPresenter came out with its live streaming functionality. The ProPresenter team at Renewed Vision has been working hard to add the streaming capability. They've made a ton of improvements over the last few months. And this may be a bold claim, but I think ProPresenter, especially for churches, has arrived to a point where it can be a complete replacement for software like Ecamm Live, vMix, OBS, any other streaming software out there. One of the frustrating things about building live streaming infrastructure for your church is that you have to download all these various apps. You got to get ProPresenter talking with Ecamm or OBS or vMix, and you're trying to get multiple tools talking to each other and working together. And I do think there are advantages to diversifying the apps you're using in your worship tech ministry. We'll talk about that a little bit later on in this video when I talk about some of the caveats of just going all in with ProPresenter for your live stream. But we all know this is going to very much simplify our live streaming setups. So if you own ProPresenter 7 already, the additional cost if you want to use the Resi ProPresenter plugin, the streaming plugin, this new feature, then you're going to have to sign up for a Resi plan. And their cheapest plan starts at $69 a month for 720p streaming, and it's just a basic embed code you can put on your website. If you want social only for, Facebook or to YouTube, then that's $89 a month. I think the best fit for most churches, though, this is the one my church uses, is the starter web plan at $139 per month. With the starter web account, you can stream to Facebook and YouTube, but to be safe, to ensure that these social platforms don't mess up your stream, you can also go directly to your website and completely bypass the social platforms. And that includes being able to take that embed code and embed it into your Church Online platform account if you're using Church Online. So realistically, the $139 a month plan, I think, is going to be the best fit for most churches who are going this route with the new Resi streaming plugin in ProPresenter. It's also important to know that you don't have to purchase the Resi streaming plugin for ProPresenter if you want to stream from ProPresenter. You can still stream from ProPresenter for free using RTMP. That's already a part of what ProPresenter has provided for you without the Resi service. But really, in essence, this is just an amazing integration between ProPresenter and this amazing streaming platform, Resi. So now let's talk about who's going to benefit most from this solution. If you already have been using one of Resi's hardware encoders, I would definitely stick with that. Because here's the thing, what's happening is now your computer that's running ProPresenter and the Resi encoder software, now it's a software encoding solution, the computer is still providing the processing power to make that all happen. Whereas in my church, where we're using the Ray encoder, we have a little dedicated Intel NUC computer, and all it has to do is encode our stream, and that creates a very reliable solution. I think using ProPresenter for streaming and this new Resi plugin is going to really fill this gap we had between the very beginner low budget streaming setups and then the more high-end hardware-based professional setups. I think there's just that huge gap because you can get into streaming pretty cheap. You can get Ecamm Live for like what, 10, 20 bucks a month. You can even use Restream as your multi-streaming cloud service for another $10 to $20 a month. And if you have great internet, that type of beginner setup works okay. But the downside of that beginner setup is that you're working with multiple applications to accomplish the same goal. And chances are you're also using ProPresenter to send lower thirds lyrics in your presentation to Ecamm, vMix, OBS, you name it, and then eventually it gets to Restream. And then on the other side of the spectrum, you have the more professional solution, kind of like what we're using at my church, where we have, a hardware video switcher, the Blackmagic ATEM television studio. We also have the dedicated hardware encoder. We've got a video hub. We've got the deck link that's getting our ProPresenter feeds into the video switcher through those hardware connections. And I still think that's the best solution for most churches. It's going to be the most reliable solution. But perhaps you started with a beginner setup and you've been frustrated with the unreliability of the traditional streaming protocols, but you don't have the $5,000, $10,000, or even $20,000 to build a more professional hardware-based setup. I think this new ProPresenter Stream plugin fills that middle ground. Leveraging ProPresenter 7's streaming capability, like what you see here on this computer, is really just going to simplify your workflow. Now, instead of using vMix or Ecamm along with ProPresenter, you can just get rid of Ecamm or vMix and just use ProPresenter 7 exclusively, but it comes at a cost, right? ProPresenter does cost $400 for a church license, but you're getting so much more functionality out of ProPresenter 7 than you would out of a simple streaming software app like Ecamm or vMix. So my prediction over the coming months and years is that less and less churches are going to be going the Ecamm, vMix, OBS route. And I know for a lot of our students in worship ministry school who are just getting started with the live streaming setup at their church, I am going to encourage them to go the ProPresenter route to get started now that it has this new feature with Resi. And I'll also encourage them to sign up for the Resi plan just so they get great results. And I haven't spent that much time yet messing around with ProPresenter and the streaming functionality, mainly because when they first came out with it, it was pretty weak. They didn't really have very good audio capability. Also, they didn't have really the integration for multi-streaming platforms. Technically, I believe you could have used RTMP to Restream to take care of that. But the ProPresenter team, they've been working very, very fast when it comes to software development. And when you compare them to other developers out there, they've been working really fast to make these updates. And now, in November of 2020, I think it's finally at the place where I can confidently start recommending this software to churches. So here's my multi-view in ProPresenter. You can see this is a screen our congregation sees. This is our lower thirds lyrics. This is our confidence monitor. And then I have the lower thirds lyrics overlaid here on the screen for our live stream. So I think the timing of this was all perfect. ProPresenter earlier this year came out with a major update for ProPresenter 7 before COVID even happened. And it introduced so much new capability when it came to the multiple different screens you can produce within this one software. And they also introduced the new looks feature, right? So I can create a new screen, say that the only layer I want on it is going to be my video layer from my camera. So right now I'm just using my FaceTime camera, but this video layer could be coming from an ATEM switcher. And I would probably encourage that to still use a hardware switcher to cut your video angles before they get into the computer. And then when I look at the looks for my live streaming screen right here, All I have above it is the slide layer with the lower thirds lyrics template applied to any slide content here. And then the other layer I've selected here is my video input. So that's just a quick way of creating a screen in ProPresenter that's going to look good for your live stream. So the exciting thing I want to emphasize here is that if you're just using ProPresenter, you don't need Ecamm or vMix anymore. And that was not true just a few months ago. So great job to the team at Renewed Vision. You guys are freaking amazing. And now ProPresenter can fill all of these roles for your worship tech ministry. It can be your presentation software, but a presentation software that can create, multiple different graphics at the same time, especially with the new announcement layer and all the cool stuff they're doing there. It's also a music player. Please stop playing music from Spotify for your church's services. Just purchase the music legally, get the proper licensing, and then put your music in ProPresenter. It's way easier to trigger it from ProPresenter than any other music app. So it's a music player, and then also it can be a video switcher. So if I wanted to, I could have multiple video camera inputs coming into ProPresenter. I would use something like the Decklink Duo to capture all those video feeds. Again, I would not, though, put all of that processing demand onto the computer. I would still get a hardware switching device like a Blackmagic ATEM. If you have the Mini Pro, then you don't need any other hardware. It just plugs directly into your computer. We'll get the video feed into your computer that way. Or you could use the larger ATEMs, get a video capture card that will then send the video feed here into the video input section of ProPresenter. So it can function, though, as a video switcher, and now it can function as an encoder/multi-streaming service. So ProPresenter is accomplishing like 4 or 5 very important tasks all with one app. And then from the perspective of price point, you're going to invest $400 to purchase ProPresenter 7 if you haven't already. It's less if you're just upgrading from a previous version. And then if you want, you don't have to do this if you want streaming capability from ProPresenter, but if you want to, and I encourage you to, you should sign up for a Resi streaming plan. And again, I recommend the starter web plan at $139 per month. Now let's talk about some of the financial objections to that, because a lot of people are like, why would I pay $139 per month when I can just use Restream for like $20 a month? Again, it comes back to the resilient streaming protocol. I love Restream. I think it's great for the price point, but I've had Restream fail on me and it creates glitches and it's really frustrating. I've heard the same thing from other worship ministry leaders as well. And given the current situation that we're in the world, and if your church wants to really be there for your congregation, I think it's worth $139 per month. And if you don't think it's worth that much, then I think you should probably start questioning your priorities and how you allocate finances in your ministry. In this day and age, having reliable online infrastructure for your church is just as important as having a reliable roof over your head. You don't see church leaders out there wanting to skimp on construction costs for their church and trying to cut corners there. Maybe some are, I don't know, but we don't want to skimp on those things because we want the roof to be above our head 100% of the time, right? And the same thing when you're online and you're streaming online, you want that to work 100% of the time. And Resi is able to do that at least 99.9999% of the time with their resilient streaming protocol. It's going to be more reliable for your congregants. They're not going to deal with buffering. They're not going to leave your stream. They're not going to be as likely to leave your stream. And it's just, to me, totally worth $139 per month. One caveat I do have about the setup of ProPresenter doing so many tasks in one application is that what if ProPresenter crashes? ProPresenter has crashed on me in the past. I know the guys at Renewed Vision are working hard to prevent that from happening, but they don't control what computer you're running it on and some other factors that are kind of unknown. They don't control the fact that maybe you forgot to plug the charger into your computer and then it just dies on you halfway through the service, right? And when that happens, like, you don't really have much redundancy to your system. In the streaming setup I use at Mission Lakewood, we're using separate hardware devices, and if my video switcher happens to fail randomly, my stream will stay active still because the encoder will still be running. And if the encoder completely fails, I have a local recording device that can still stay active, and it'll at least record the service, and then we can just post it after we're done recording. So my biggest caveat when it comes to using ProPresenter to fulfill all these needs that you used to have to use multiple apps for, my biggest caveat is that you might not really have much great redundancy going on there. It would be interesting to know, and maybe one of the Resi team members can let me know, like, what if ProPresenter completely crashes and the Resi streaming plugin crashes completely on your computer, will the event in the Resi cloud just keep going? And then if you restart your computer, it'll automatically send the stream back there to the cloud. I know these guys. I probably could have just asked them before this video, but that's just a question I would have, right? Is like how reliable is this setup in the case of failure with the application? Because I'm not really too worried about the Resi service failing in the cloud, but it's just like the local computer software setup. Again, the guys at ProPresenter, I love how innovative they've been over the past year, but sometimes the downside of being super innovative and introducing new features really, really fast is that the reliability and stability can take a hit. So please be aware of that, especially if you want to be an early adopter. I always tell our clients, like, hey, let me and my team be the early adopters and let us be the guinea pigs, the crash test dummies. When a brand new feature comes out, I would just caution you about diving all into using it, especially within the first month or two. Give them a couple months. Let other worship ministries be the guinea pigs for this, so that the Renewed Vision team and the Resi team can fix any bugs or glitches. And then I bet 6 months from now, especially, this will be a really amazing solution. And my only other caveat about putting all of your stream control into one app is that it might get a little overwhelming for manual operation, especially if you're not utilizing automation. For someone like me, who I'm a power user when it comes to Ableton Live, MIDI cues, and automation, I'm excited about what you could do with ProPresenter in like just firing everything from my Ableton Tracks rig, and being able to, cue everything. We got lyrics, lighting, video switching, and the streaming, all that stuff just happening primarily in ProPresenter. ProPresenter doesn't do lighting, but it can talk to lighting software via MIDI. But you get what I mean. Sometimes when you're working in an app, it's just like it can get overwhelming trying to click everywhere and hit all the right cues. Unfortunately, ProPresenter does have the MIDI capability and the queuing capability where you can add cues to a particular slide, and that will then cue perhaps a different video input or such. So there's a lot of flexibility about what you can do. So if you go all in with ProPresenter, make sure you're using all the different queuing and automation capabilities that it has. It'll make your life and your volunteers' life so much easier. So that's all I have to say about the ProPresenter streaming plugin. Hopefully it clears up a lot for you guys. Just remember, you can still stream from ProPresenter without the Resi plugin, but it's just not going to be as reliable. I do think it's worth the monthly service plan, and I'm saying this as someone who's been using this plan along with the Ray encoder for the past 3 months, and it's been flawless. So make sure you have a beefy enough computer to run all this, because you don't want to put too much stress on the computer. Now it's doing all these various tasks. It probably will fail on you if you don't have the right specs on your computer. So probably quad core, at least maybe 6 or 8 core computer, get plenty of RAM, at least 16 gigs of RAM. I still think Mac is superior when it comes to running ProPresenter, but you can run it on PC too. That's another big thing, is all this stuff is cross-platform, which is a game changer for a lot of churches. And now, this is another kind of tangent I'll go off on. You could build maybe a really powerful custom PC, put a Decklink Duo in it, and really have this complete live streaming solution all in one machine. So you could definitely consider doing that if you are just an avid PC user and you want to custom build your own machine. I do have a referral link for Resi and their streaming service. So if you do go that route, just click the link below this video. That will let them know that I sent you over to them. And of course, that does get me a bit of commission for the channel. It's a great way to support what we do here at Churchfront. And again, remember, like my reviews and stuff, I'll be very honest about what I like, what I don't like. Any caveats I have, like what I shared in this video about this type of solution. And when I do think that a product or a service is a great solution for churches, at least for the time being, I will recommend it, and I will definitely take advantage of the referral links that these companies provide for me. I think, but they're just great guys. The Resi has a great heart for church and worship ministry and what we're all doing. That's why I really appreciate what they're doing, and that's why I think they really stand out from the pack when you compare them to some of the other streaming services out there. And then ProPresenter, you guys already know, they're like so focused on house of worship and equipping us with the right tools. So check out that link below this video. Thanks for watching. Smash like if you found it entertaining and informative. Share it with your ministry friends who also might be a little confused about what's going on with this new update to ProPresenter. And don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss out on any of our future content to help you grow yourself and grow your church.